Hey everyone. I wanted to talk a little bit about some things I've been seeing creators say on YouTube recently. Basically, going to be talking about the YouTube meta. So, if you've been following any creators on YouTube recently in like the last, I'd say, month or two, I bet you've been hearing favorite YouTube creators say stuff like, "Yeah, it's been kind of a bad year on YouTube for income. Like the hits are going down. People aren't engaging with the content as much. Don't know what's going on." I just saw one video where a guy said that he thinks that it's because he does niche content. He does content in the retro gaming space, and he thinks that the retro gaming space is too crowded. That there's basically a lot of content there in the retro gaming space right now, and so like with that glut of content, the hits are spreading out over the pieces, and I would agree, and in fact, I think that this is in fact the fault of creators on YouTube. And I might sound a little frustrated, but I watched this happen, and whenever I watched it happen, I actually was thinking at the time, like, I don't think that's going to go how you expect it to go. So I'd say that in the last couple of years, a lot of creators on YouTube decided to make YouTube their permanent home. They're like, I'm going to do my job on YouTube now or online now instead of doing the thing I was doing before, which I think is great. And I think entrepreneurship is great. Um, the problem I think is that a lot of these people seem to be very new to doing business on YouTube in particular and the internet in general. They especially seem to be new to doing business on their own independently. In fact, that was the draw. It's like, oh, I can finally be my own boss. I don't have to work for corporate anymore. I don't have to work for Netflix anymore, whatever. And the problem is that many of these creators were sort of making YouTube their big business place right around 2020 to 2022. Like that's whenever I saw a lot of creators say, "I'm going to engage. This is going to be the big thing. There's a new launch now, and from now on, like the channel, like we're this is a new era for our channel." I bet you've heard stuff like this. I'm trying to just like to think, what were a couple of generic expressions I heard a lot in 22. It's new era for the blah 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 channel. Um, a new focus on content and our Patreon, because a lot of movement onto Patreon, as people are trying to kind of supplement the YouTube income. And I haven't seen people talk about their Patreon numbers. They've only been talking about their YouTube numbers from like the videos that I've been looking at. But I would not be surprised if they're having some declines on their Patreon numbers or they're not getting the kind of returns they were expecting to get after they launched the Patreon because Patreon is itself a glutted space. Patreon is a crowded space because whenever you're a patron of various Patreons, you have a central interface file which you can manage all of your pledges. So when you're managing all of your pledges, hold on a second. The little light for the camera on thing is just so distracting. When you're managing all your pledges, you can see all of them at once and you can start to see how it all adds up. From the creator point of view, I'm sure you think, oh, yeah, well, I've got this one $5 pledge over there. And for some reason, they canceled this month. It's like, yeah, but from the $5 pledges perspective, they're doing $100 of pledges a month. And your Patreon was one too many. And it's not that you're competing with all those other creators. It's that you're competing for the attention and favor of each and every one of your patrons. And they are flooded because all of the creators decided to go on Patreon this year. Like, I'm not going to knock anybody for it because I went back on Patreon this year. I kind of tried to start it up, paused a bit, and then cranked it back up again after having to kind of like rebase my approach. But like a lot of people have been getting onto Patreon. And what's been weird to me is that whenever I got onto Patreon, every single time I've gotten onto Patreon, I've never said, I'm going to make this much a month. I've said, it would be great if I get some patrons. And that's it. It's great right now that I have 8 patrons and I'm making $25 a month. It would be great if those numbers were 10 times that. It would be great if those numbers were 100 times that. But either way, like I really couldn't say like I expect this amount. This many people will show up with this many dollars each month. You can never expect that. That is never guaranteed. I think one of the things that's frustrating hearing creators complain about the numbers is this idea that they were ever owed a certain level of numbers or that they were expecting a certain level of numbers. That's strange to me because there's never any one set of statistics that's ever going to apply at one time. For instance, in January, people are going to have different surfing habits in January than they're going to have in December. January, they're recovering from the holidays. December, they're having the holidays. And so they're just going to have different shopping patterns. They're going to have different interest patterns. Um, and they're going to be consuming different content. They're going to be engaged in different family stuff, different work stuff. And also, all of the YouTube creators are now trying to get the audience to engage on so many levels. This is, I think, the biggest mistake that most creators made this year and the last few years is increasing the amount of content you're doing. Why are you doing this? I understand that each video technically makes more money for you, especially if you've got sponsorships. And by the way, how's that established titles going? Sorry, I'm a little bitter after seeing so many creators on YouTube do the established titles thing, and the entire time I'm looking at it going, I remember when Cards Against Humanity stole like a square foot of space on an island called Hawaii 2 as a Christmas gag gift. And that seemed more reputable than this. At least they didn't say that they were going to plant a tree on it, because it's literally impossible to plant a tree in a square foot of space next to another tree planted in a square foot of space, next to another tree planted in a square foot of space. That's too close together. Trees don't grow like that. No one ever actually put their brains into thinking about this. The same way they didn't ever put their brains into thinking about, hey, my sponsors can sustain me doing 4 videos a month, and my viewers can sustain watching 4 of my videos a month. Let's say that you do 2-hour-long videos, hour and 30-minute, 2-hour-long videos. That's a lot. They're used to you putting out a certain amount of content. So if you suddenly double that amount of content, your viewers aren't going to automatically double the amount of time they watch your content. They don't necessarily have that time. And I have seen so many creators basically say, and from here on out, the channel is going to have even more content. We've got a lot of things that we've been wanting to produce. And so now we've got 3 series at once that we're, launching. And now we're going to be able to do this. And now we're going to be able to do this. And it's like, but could you slow down? It is the year of our Lord 2022. Look at how many things have happened. How many people are going to be able to focus on your thing? How many people are going to be able to keep track of that? I know everybody's very excited about what it is that they want to do, but you cannot assume that everybody is going to show up immediately and immediately be on board and immediately like buy up all your sponsorships, and click on all your links, and watch all your videos all the way through and get all your watch hours up. And the idea that there's a certain amount of hits that's expected to come in is very strange, because you don't know how many users are even going to use YouTube each month. Like, there's a YouTube meta. YouTube itself is a company that's competing with other companies in this social media space. YouTube is competing with Instagram. It's competing with TikTok. I can imagine a lot of people probably getting onto TikTok in the last few months, especially if they want to kind of live it up while it's still there. We don't think it's going to all. There's a good chance we won't have TikTok much longer, looking at what the U.S. government is doing. There's a good chance we won't have access. So, like, there's a big shift in all these different social media spaces. There's a big bunch of irregularities. 2022 was a strange year. It's been a hard year. A lot of people are not making as much money as they want to be. A lot of people just got laid off in the last couple of months. And I don't know how to tell you this, but if you watch the news, then you will notice that people get laid off every Christmas. It happens. I tell you this, but if you watch the news, then you will notice that people get laid off every Christmas. It happens during the holidays. There are telling you about how to market your content, telling you, oh, the audiences are like this time of year. The audiences are this time of year. And do you ever question where they're actually getting that info? Because most of the time they're getting it from like the bigger media higher ups, or they're getting it from like old books from the 80s. and none of that applies anymore. Literally, global warming has changed how we even interact with the weather. So you can't depend on any of the old logic from before on how you're going to get content and how you're going to get hits. And I think that people need to respect their audience's attention and space. Like, most of all, the audience's space. Just a second. Um, I'll give you a literal example of the space you should be respecting. Go to your own YouTube and look at youtube.com and look at your dashboard. Look at your homepage, your home screen of YouTube, and see how many thumbnails you can see on your screen whenever you load it. Like, how many videos are you seeing promoted at once whenever you load up YouTube? Is it like 8? Is it 4? It depends on how many ads are loading, or if ads are loading, if they've got a banner up top and everything. But look at how much real estate is there. There's going to be room for 8 to 12 videos. If you got a very big screen, it'll be more. But you will also be looking at less of them because there are more. You'll have less time to look at them all. So you're going to get this impression of 4 to 12 video thumbnails on the homepage for youtube.com. Now, note which YouTubers they all come from and which of those YouTubers you've been watching recently. Note how many of them you actually want to watch. This is the experience that your viewers go through all of the time, and most of you don't take that for granted, but a lot of you do, in my opinion. I add new YouTube, like I subscribe to new YouTubes and I unsubscribe to old YouTubes or even new YouTubes like all the time, constantly rotating out the creators that I'm watching and keeping up with. Sometimes because it turns out like the content balance that they're putting out just doesn't really fit in with my intake. Sometimes it's just there's all kinds of reasons why you can subscribe or unsubscribe. But I find that whenever I subscribe to a new creator and putting out like just really flooding the whole space with content, then if I don't unsubscribe, I at least turn off notifications. And I kind of ignore their content for a while so YouTube stops showing it to me. I'll go find it when I want it and I'll have time for it. But if there's a YouTuber I'm following who I don't think that I actually have time for, I'm gonna kind of avoid their stuff. And the time for thing is it's an interesting variable. Basically, how much does somebody have to keep up with you to watch your videos? How much of a time sink is involved? How much of a time investment is there to your content? Because that is that's your viewers' time. That's your that's audience's time, and you've got to respect that time. And like, you cannot expect that everybody's going to be watching the stream and watching all the videos and playing the ARG and buying the NFT set. Although NFTs, there's his own sideways cluster F. You really cannot expect that whenever you say, I'm going to double the amount of content that I do on YouTube, and that means I'm going to double all my numbers on YouTube. You cannot do that. That is not how the math works. When you increase the amount of content that you do on YouTube, YouTube does not necessarily have the space to display the thumbnails for all that new content that you put up. It's going to display like 1 or 2 of your thumbnails on a user's homepage at most, like as in the first screen before anybody scrolls down. That's have probably max 2 of your thumbnails, probably just 1. If you put out 5 videos a week, what if this user only comes on like once a week to actually do a binge watch? How much of of your stuff are they going to catch? If you're increasing your output, that doesn't mean that the real estate, the screen real estate, is actually available to display your output. It doesn't mean that the viewer's time is there to watch your output, to focus on it, to concentrate, to engage. And sometimes it's just all about time and timing. Like if it's near a busy time of year, you might want to change when you're launching something. you might want to aim for whenever your viewers have the attention and focus to put on whatever it is that you're putting out. I know that it's really hard to make a business pay for itself. That there's all kinds of ways that we just have to, like, adjust what it is that we're doing to make it all profitable, to bring in the numbers, as it were. But you cannot think of your viewers as automatically buying into every single thing that you put out. And you cannot assume that new viewers are going to come and find the stuff that it is that you're making. I think the best tip that I've ever seen for making content on YouTube is search YouTube's tags, like popular tags. Look through YouTube's popular tags. See the tags that are searched a lot, and then find under those tags where there's not a lot of content for it yet. Like whenever somebody searches this keyword, they are only going to find maybe 3 videos that are actually about that keyword. And that gives you plenty of room. Now, whenever you search that keyword, there's already like 3 pages worth of content. Where are people going to find you in that? I've noticed the make a video about the same subject, itis, the disease of that, happening on YouTube quite a bit lately. Everybody's got to talk about this one thing Elon did. Everybody's got to talk about what's going on Twitter. Everybody's got to say what happened with Donald Trump. Everybody's got to talk about NFTs in this specific way. Everybody's got to talk about the crypto crash. The biggest the biggest topics right now, you've got someone actually covering the news, and then you've got someone covering news, like covering someone else covering the news, and then you have all these reaction videos where it's like a certain YouTuber watches the video and reacts to it. And you've sometimes got YouTubers who are reacting to YouTubers reacting to things. And at a certain point, you can no longer assume that all this content is going to be watched. At a certain point, like, I think that you need to understand that our audiences have lives just like you, and they can't watch all your stuff if you're going to make too much of it. I really think that channels have been getting a lot of really good engagement that have been putting out like a very long type of documentary type content once every month or so, and they think, oh, well, now I'll just do a video a week. And it's like, you might see your numbers spread out across those instead of multiplying by 4. Like you really cannot expect people's behavior to change as soon as you change your content. Their behavior is probably going to stay the same. And you really have to be aware of, like, where is it that your content is fitting in the context of the rest of YouTube, because you're making content in an ecosystem and it's alongside everything else. Just because you decide to launch your big thing doesn't mean that everybody is going to play along with that automatically. They don't know that you've got a thing going, probably. So I think just being aware what it is that your viewers actually have in terms of time and focus. And I think just really asking yourself, like, what is the value of what it is that I'm putting out here? Is it just more content, or is there a reason I'm actually saying this? Because it's nice when people have good ideas, but just because it's a good idea doesn't mean that you have to do it. I don't know. I think I'm just going to wrap it up. So, yeah, here's some more content on YouTube about how there should be less content on YouTube. You're welcome. I've done such a good job.